Welcome back to Laugh Through It All. I'm your host, Tracy. Join me as I sit down with Dr. Renu, a specialist in holistic digestive health. Welcome back, Dr. Renu. I always love talking to you. And today we're going to talk about gut and digestive health, which, I've had a little experiences with that my entire life. And what inspired you to specialize in digestive health anyway, and what led you towards the holistic approach?
Uh, Thank you so much for having me on this podcast again. It was both like the personal reason and the professional journey. On the personal level, like I'll be 44 in June. So, few years back, couple of 5 years back, when I started to have my hormonal changes, I felt the need to have like food, nutrition, meditation, and the holistic approach on my personal level. So that's how I think it more than me getting into the holistic approach, it was like it followed me kind of a. So that was how it started on a personal level. But on the professional level, it was since I treat a lot of patients with pelvic pain, pelvic pain, endometriosis, bladder pain, all different level of, pain per se. That was another thing, right? Like, when it is pain, then it is inflammation. And then it's always like you get a lot of this like anti-inflammatory detox diet. And I wanted to go to the root cause and actually figure it out, like, and learn more about like what is this anti-inflammatory diet? What can we do to facilitate and help my patients if I can change help with their, food and nutrition? So that's how the professional journey started with this.
And so, holistic is what? Let people know what holistic is compared to the medicine science part of it.
So what I am doing is the Ayurvedic practice. It's a 5,000-year-old preventative medicine. So it is still medicine, but it's a preventative, and it's like, as I mentioned, more than 5,000-year-old medicine. So it always focuses on like you as like we as human being, we are part of nature, and then we have to follow the circadian cycle of the nature. So that's the beauty about Ayurveda. So, we talk about like the holistic, but the name for this practice is like the Ayurvedic medicine. And it works on like, like the food and nutrition and then body and mind soul connection to achieve human being its utmost capability or capacity it carries. So it's a beautiful way of putting like each individual is its own snowflake. So we can be, like how the body type and how it kind of nurtures our mind, and like the food habits, how it can change our mood. So it's like that's the beautiful connection, as I mentioned, and it's like a body, mind, and at a soul level.
So, how do you pinpoint how to help yourself if it's been your entire life?
So, like in Ayurveda, there are like three different body types. One is the Vata, that means, and Pitta, and then Kapha. So, in to explain in a simple layman term, it is like, how you have been throughout your life journey. Is someone has to, is like, like mobile, just like, going from one thing to another, just kind of, going all over. The second body type is the Pitta, means inflammation. It is like, like the mood or anger or inflammation. How is that? And Kapha is like, a subtle or the, quiet kind of, like strong, stout, and that kind of body type. So these are the few, like, like that's the basic of Ayurveda. And the other basic, it like all like human being, like the cells, everyone on this universe, they are made up of like five different elements. So water, and then earth, air, ether, fire. So that's the fundamental and that's the premise of Ayurveda. So if some, if for example, like, how you're asking about like the digestion, so then it would be like my leading questions for you would be like, how long have you been having this? So it is never like, it's not like one particular thing which changed. For the digestion, it has to be, you know, our more, how I mentioned, it's like the food and water habits, how is the sleep quality, and then how are the stress management, how are the interpersonal relationship, how are you managing so it is like it's like it doesn't come to down to like, oh, just eat like fruits or vegetables or like drink water. It is the combination of all these different factors to have understanding that why someone is not able to have an optimal digestion. Because another like my another like the fundamental or basics of Ayurveda. It's not what you eat, it's what you can digest and what you can. So basically, if I eat something, at what point is it nourishing that to my body, to myself? Is it assimilating and absorbing and eliminating? Like all these things needs to be important factor for someone to understand if their digestion is working at its optimum level.
Now, is there a test you can do, like a blood test or things like that, to see what is not good for like my gut?
Yeah, so there is no such like, blood work or test, but, the first and foremost, it starts with pariksha, meaning, how does my client look? How is, for instance, how are their lips? Are their lips dry? So that tells me that, that someone is drinking water, but they are not putting enough of electrolytes. So it's like water getting in and out of the system. How is their skin? Then is their skin dry or flaky? The hair quality. Eyes, do they have like that moist in their eyes, or is it like dry? So like that's the first, like the observation is the key. Then the second would be like, their everyday routine. Like if someone tells me that, oh, they go to bed like at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, right? I have patients who go to bed at like morning 3 o'clock. So then that immediately, that would kind of lead to that, like if someone is sleeping like every day, every night, like, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 3 o'clock in the morning, then there are like good chances that they don't have like the optimal digestion. Then there are like a lot of parameters, and the one important would be elimination, meaning are they having bowel movements every day? So a lot of the clients they say, yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, I do. So that would be like when they say this, like, I think, yes, yes, I think so. Then those would be my next leading questions. Like, okay, are you having bowel movements every day? Do you have to strain to have bowel movement? Because, like, we don't talk about bowel all the time, right? Like, no one would tell, like, oh, it's so hard for me to sit on the toilet. I was there for like half hour and I had like pebbles, right? Like, that's not the conversation but what I'm saying is that's something very important, like how you're eliminating. So these are like different. They're like a lot of like, again, the pulse reading, the nails, the skin, and there are like a lot of other parameters which would, and like sleep is another a huge parameter to decide, and for someone to determine that if they are having the optimal gut. digestion or
So is a key, by the way, you saying lips dry makes me want to put my chapstick on immediately.
right, right, right.
It mentally made me need my chapstick.
Like, and like a fun fact to all the listeners on this podcast is never just drink, water, tap water. We should always be drinking like water with electrolytes. Either it can be like a pinch of Himalayan salt, or you can get the electrolytes of from any like Trader Joe's or of Amazon. So they're like a lot of different, but easy for us it is like just
Okay.
the pinch of Himalayan salt. So then a lot of my clients, they would say like, oh, isn't salt bad for me? So then I asked them, like, we never think twice to have French fries or bag of chips or anything, right? But, I'm saying like in a 64-ounce water bottle, just like few crystals of pink salt because it improves the cell permeability. It helps. It's so basically, if I'm just drinking water, and then I go to the bathroom, it is just, water in and water out in a different form. We need to have our cells nourished with that, with good hydration. And that's why it is very important to add some form of electrolytes. So it goes into your cell and then you're hydrating at a cellular level.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's
Yes. And
okay. Now the
yeah, and
electrolytes, if they come in like little packs.
yeah, there are like different kind of electrolytes, but my favorite and to go to is like the pink Himalayan salt. That's the
Yeah,
easy,
but does it
just
taste salty?
no, it doesn't because it's just like, as I said, like in a big 64-ounce water bottle, just few crystals. So you don't even realize that, and it should not of taste salty. That means someone has added a lot of
Oof. I was gonna say
yes,
that sounds
yes.
terrible to
Yeah,
me.
so it just it should help the cell permeability. That's what you need.
Okay, so pink Himalaya salts, and you just put a few crystals in, and it
Just few
dissolves.
crystals. That's it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never heard of that.
Yes, yes.
And do is your elimination, is that a key to your gut health, or does it have to make up a couple different things?
That is one of the important key because that's tells me as a clinician that how my clients are, absorbing, assimilating, and eliminating. And then the type of bowels you're having. So there is a stool chart which is called as like Bristol stool chart.
Yes.
So if you have like it should be like nice and banana consistency, because if it is like type 1 and 2, then most it tells me that there needs to be up in the fiber intake or water intake. And if it is like, into that 5 or 6, that means someone is like just, they're not absorbing and assimilating. It is just whatever is going in the body, it just like, everything is coming out. So my cells are like on a cellular level, I'm not able to absorb, assimilate, or so we can have the best organic food in the entire world, but if I am not able to absorb that food, then there is no, what's the point in spending like thousands of dollars on like good organic? I'm not saying no to organic. I'm just saying, giving an example. So it is not always what you eat. It's about what you can digest, absorb, and eliminate. So that's the key I want to have, everyone who is listening to this podcast pay close attention to is how are the bowel health, what are the type of bowel health, how is the sleep quality, like for women's in their, perimenopausal, menopausal age, is their belly fat around? So then that's most of the time, like, one of the marker for the stress management. So these are like different health parameters someone has to have like, be in tune to into their body to know these changes. So, for me, the way I practice it's soul pelvic floor therapy and gut healing. It's like the East meets West concept. So as a core, as a physical therapist, I always believe that we have to always follow the physician's order. So that's one foundation which I have, in my practice. And then the second foundation is for the Ayurvedic, this 5,000-year-old, traditional medicine. So if I have to, definitely, their magnesium, which physician has recommended, that's wonderful. Apart from that, I always feel as a Ayurvedic advisor that what is the root cause, right? Like why someone is in this situation where they are not able to have bowel movement every single day, or at least, 4 or 5 times what is considered as a near normal parameter. Then how is their, food? What are they eating? Are they exercising? Are they moving enough? Or the stress parameters? What are the other areas which can improve? And
Mhm.
then with the physician's recommendation, it can kind of give that, facilitate that bowel movements or that elimination process. So everything has to work. It's like a symphony. Like, all the orchestra and everyone has to kind of play and be at a certain note. So it's just like a nice, someone who is listening, they feel, okay, this is really nice. So that's what it is. So, you definitely, does it help? It does.
Okay.
However, there needs to be more to this conversation that what else can be done to facilitate and improve this gut health, resetting the gut health or improve the digestion.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I'm to the point where I need to make those healthy changes. And um just because of even that and the acid reflux, I had a scope done at the same time. And so I'm definitely not eating foods that my body is enjoying too much. So, I mean, even if it's just like a spaghetti sauce, God forbid, you know what I mean? So it's I need to learn the types of things that I'm eating that is causing my body to not be healthy.
Yeah, so that's another like beauty of Ayurveda because how you mentioned about the food. Um, in Ayurveda, it talks about each food, like every food group has its own quality. Like, how you are an individual, I'm an individual, I would have some different qualities, and you would have different qualities. So same way, every food like fruits, vegetables, lentils and legumes has its own quality. So depending on what the client's body type is, then there are some food groups which are kind of, that would facilitate their gut digestion. There are some food options which they should minimize, and there are some which as a practitioner I would never say like remove, but eliminate for like some time to see what it's doing on your body type and then go from there. So for instance, if someone is not able to have bowel movement, if I take that example, so then it can be, any of the body type that could be different. But if someone tells me that they are having like a pebble, dry, straining kind of, right? And then it has to be in a combination if they're not sleeping well or the sleep quality is not optimum. So then it would be like, what are the food qualities which would be, then you need like a nice moist and then then dampening those kind of food options which would kind of nourish. So this particular person cannot be having like chips or corn or, dry or even like dry fruits, right? We think that, oh, nuts and crackers and then peanuts, these are all healthy. But if someone is having this dry gut, then it is so the foundation of Ayurveda is like increases like an opposite balance, meaning if someone has like, like dry lips or dry skin, or then I won't be recommending to have them like dry food groups, including dry fruits like almonds and cashews, because even they are good for you, they might not be good for this particular patient or client. So in that case, I would be recommending like soaked chia seeds. I will be recommending like rice. I will be recommending like chickpeas. So those are the food. And then likewise, if I have to give you a different example, if someone is like, stuffy or like they're like just congested and then runny nose, then I won't be, recommending like cold, ice cream or any cold foods group options. You need like warm and anxious. So someone would need like a chicken broth or vegetable broth. So, like so same like how the thing is like increases like an opposites balance. So these are the some of the examples that, and same way like spices. So if someone is having like, cold congestion, then, like pepper and then cinnamon and ginger. So those would be that's, it's like something like really common sense. If But at the same time, it is when someone is going through so many things, then at that point, we are not able, it's like right in front of us, it's in our kitchen. It's what our grandparents used to do every time. Uh, and that's what the beauty of Ayurveda is, to nourish someone at a cellular level with, simple food, easy to digest food, nutrition, spices, herbs, which you get in your kitchen.
Now you talk about um good sleep. Now,
Correct.
what happens if people are getting 8 hours of sleep, but they have an untreated sleep apnea? Do those go hand in hand? So they may be getting 8 hours of sleep, but they're not getting a deep sleep.
Right. So, for the sleep, I would always ask my clients question, are you having difficulty falling asleep? Or are you having difficulty staying asleep? Because that could be two separate way they get treated. For example, if someone tells me that, oh, I was like so tired, but as soon as I'm on the bed, I just can't fall asleep. It takes me like 30 minutes to an hour. So that is like, again, think about it from like the five elements which I discussed initially. So when someone is like, up and then they're like, thinking about like all the thoughts, it's like air and ether, right? Like too many things, too many thoughts going in their mind. And that's why they can't fall asleep. So in that case, my always I ask them, like, are you having, salad for dinner? Because that's one of the most common thing, right? But think about it. If someone is having like raw salad or raw food for dinner, then they have difficulty falling asleep, and now they are putting like this air, ether, or even popcorn, like if they are consuming, then everything is airy, everything is up in the air. I need them to have like a grounding food group option. So I need to have them like dense, like lentil soup with clarified ghee, like or butter, right? I need to have them like some chickpea rice or cooked vegetables with ginger, just nice. So like see, like just in a one simple example, how it is easy for someone to understand what they should.
Absolutely.
So that's one is the food and nutrition. The second part about sleep would be I I teach them different breathing techniques to help them grounding and then help them fall asleep and then have that good restful sleep. Then there are different yoga poses which facilitate sleep. So that's another, like, one of the foundation. So they're like all different. This is someone who is having difficulty to fall asleep, correct?
Hmm.
Someone who is having, they wake up like around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So there can be a couple of reasons. If they are waking every 1.5 hour to use the bathroom, then as a pelvic floor therapist, then I have to find out, is there are any pelvic floor dysfunctions going on? Are there any bladder irritants? And then the other options are, again, would be if they are consuming enough of protein. Because if the blood sugar is not regulated, then that could be one of the reason that someone they are able to fall asleep, but they are not able to stay asleep, throughout, or like, again, as I said, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, that's standard typical time when a lot of my clients they would tell, oh, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. And most of them, what they do, they grab their cell phone and they just like browse, like, okay, what news and or WhatsApp and everything, correct? So then, so there's like a lifestyle modification that, yes, then it would be like, working with them for their protein intake, then working with same like different like breathing techniques, different stretching before going to bed, and last but not the least is like telling them different tools that when they wake up at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they should not have their cell phone and browsing because it's not helping. So it is like as I said, like all it's like taking the detailed history and asking and listening to your clients that what are they telling, because that's what is the key is like to have that um, listening skills so that they are able to tell you that this is what is happening with them and make slow and steady modifications and then lifestyle changes. So it's not they don't feel that they are forced to make 360-degree changes. It just becomes part of their lifestyle.
Now, a lot of people don't realize, which I didn't realize before our last podcast about pelvic floor therapy, is that pelvic floor and gut health are kind of related. And so, can you talk about the connection between bloating, constipation, and pelvic floor problems and how are they interchangeable?
So for if I take the example for like constipation, then from a pelvic floor therapy perspective, have to assess from my patients that if the pelvic floor is tight, is that the reason why someone is not able to eliminate? So again, it is a combination of not gut, gut imbalance or digestion and then musculoskeletal imbalance. And it all comes down to that body mind connection, because then there someone is not able, because everything from a musculoskeletal perspective is connected. Your pelvic floor is connected to your core, then your breathing. So someone who has altered breathing, or they are not able to breathe correctly, then they would have musculoskeletal or pelvic floor issues. And then stress, like we are in 2025, this is one of the, like like social media, work, kids. the way someone should be looking in their 40s or 50s, perimenopausal, menopausal. So it's like there are like so many layers, right? For instance, I can tell that even though like the treatment part and everything, I feel confident, but I'm not at all good at like posting on like Instagram and social media, right? That's one of the areas which I would like to get better. Even me as a pelvic floor therapist, and then how strong and then confident I feel treating my patient. But when I'm creating the post and when I see posts from other clinicians, I do have that, fear factor. I do have that factor of like, oh, this is not like, no one is going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
Or so these are all things which goes on a personal human being level, which kind of disrupts your gut microbe at all the time. So that
Sure.
body mind connection, like everything plays an important role. And that's why I always say it is never like just, oh, someone have just pelvic floor or someone just like gut issues where they eat really good, organic food. But if they are not managing their stress, if they are not sleeping well, if they are not exercising, if they are not doing strength training, there are like a lot of things which we need to take care to have a good foundation for good gut health.
And if it's anything like, for just for me, for example, is I'm putting so much effort into my business and things like that that sometimes, I mean, I really have to focus on you must go and get your walk in, or you must make sure you do all this stuff. So it's not to the point where all of these things just come naturally to me, and I'm sure many, many others, that you're getting all of those things in.
Correct. So what I tell my clients is you don't have to do 100%, right? Because if someone tries to strive for that 100%, we are all going to put ourselves for failure.
Yeah, good point.
So, right? So it's just not humanly possible, especially, right? Like we have like do cooking, cleaning, working, marketing, treating, all those, it cannot happen. And your self-care and self-love.
Yes,
That's one of the most important factor. So it is, if you're able to do like, 50% one day, next day if you're able to do 10%, that's fine. You showed up for yourself and that's what matters. But the most important part from a pelvic floor and a gut health uh, provider, what I would recommend is the movement. That is the key. If someone can just set aside 30 minutes of their busy schedule and then have some form of exercise, either it can be walking, it can be yoga, it can be pilates, it can be strength training, correct? And then like just divide your time like in for instance 5 days. You can do one, you can do strength training for your lower body, and then for upper body you can do cardio, swimming, biking. So these are all different, and it doesn't take like you don't have to spend like hours in the gym. So
right.
that's where I feel that if because a lot of the clients they would say like, oh, I don't do exercise, I'm not able to sleep well, I don't cook, and like where do I start, right? Like it's like so many parameters someone has to take care. So I always say like, hold on to one thread at first
Right.
and then kind of weave it around it. So if you decide that okay, I'm going to just do, in 5 days a week, like 30 minutes of like some form of exercise or a movement, no matter how busy we are, right? Like nowadays, we all say that we are busy, but if I look at my own screen time, right, it will
Mhm.
be like hours. So I can definitely dedicate like 30 minutes of that time for like, any form of exercise, dance, movement, boxing, whichever if you're able to enjoy that movement, right? That's wonderful. So I would say start with exercise and
Okay.
then slowly, eating at home, cooking.
Oh, for
It
sure.
doesn't, that's another, a struggle, right? So then I teach my clients because me as a working mother, there are a lot of challenges, right? It's not easy to have like home cooked meal on the table every single day and for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I
Hmm.
do teach my patients like different strategies, different cooking. So I had like different like lentils and then millets and spices in my clinic space where I teach them like simple meal preps so that they are able to take care of themselves because that's I strongly believe if someone is able to take care of themselves first, then only they're able to nurture and be a good caregiver. Caregiving doesn't mean that you have to physically do any kind of caregiving. It is basically, you be as a partner, you as a clinician, you as a coworker, you as a parent, right? If I am unhappy in my own body and mind, I won't be happy, or no one will be happy around me because that's where I feel I need to take care of myself first so that I can be a better version of me.
What informative stuff. I love it.
So thank you so much.
I'm very thankful for you and just kind of getting the message out there to people on how to take care of their again, just their gut and their stress levels and their pelvic floor. We know that pelvic floor is so important. I thank you again for joining me for a second time.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. As always, do better, expect better, and be better. And remember to laugh through it all. Don't forget to check out my Shopify page where you can pick up some do better, expect better, be better, and some laugh through it all merchandise. Link is in the description.